After hundreds of heroes from other worlds were summoned to fight the darkness and its powerful army of demons, this young man was rejected as a hero and left in another world, abandoned in the farthest corners of the kingdom by a cruel king who only wanted to be rid of him. The fate of this hero seems very bleak, but what will happen when he discovers that he has a hidden supernatural power that manifests later? The episode begins when this hero is summoned to this world as candidate number 98. They say, "Welcome, Hero Banaza, to our magical land of Krayrod. Please come here." He asks where he is and what this place exactly is. "Where am I? I was in the loading area. What is my purpose? What is my job?" This girl speaks to him and says, "Sir Banaza, the other candidate hero will be summoned soon. Come here quickly." He asks who this other person is, and she tells him, "I will show you how to measure your power using the crystal ball." He is surprised to find that he has a power and says to her, "There is something wrong in this place. Despite you saying that I am a huge candidate, I am just an assistant." She tells him, "You may not know that there is a hidden power within you. Come and take a look at our land, Krayrod." Then she asks him what kind of country he lived in, because our country is in a completely different world altogether. After all, he opens the window and sees the beauty of this country. He marvels and says, "I have never heard of a country known by this name. I wonder if it is trading relations with another country or what." Then he says to himself, "It seems that I am in a different world from the one I was in." Then this girl speaks and says, "Because of the long battles against the army of demons, the kingdom was on the verge of collapse, and everything was about to bow down to it. So our city decided to summon heroes from a different world. These heroes are capable of defeating the Demon King and resisting the invasion." He says to her, "I really don't know about that, but isn't it better to appoint someone strong as a hero only from this country?" After that, he enters this room, the room where all the wizards are gathered, surrounded by the crystal ball. The girl says those who have been brought to this world from another world are given blessings from heaven and are granted skills that no one else can obtain. Then she tells him this is the way from here. And indeed, he stands before this crystal. Then afterward, the magical crystal begins to glow, revealing that his power is very weak. Energy 9, Defense 8, Ability 6, Magical Strength 1, and he has no supernatural abilities. The girl is shocked and says to him, "You don't possess life force or any supernatural power. These are abilities of an average adult male, and you don't have any extraordinary abilities." Then Banaza speaks and says, "This is true. I told you I'm just a merchant." The wizards around them consider this a great failure and demand to return this failure to his world immediately. "We must search again for a suitable hero," they say. However, the other says to him, "The transport gate has already been closed." Then we see this servant girl who says, "A legendary man similar to you with powers exceeding 999 in magic energy and physical strength has appeared. He seems a bit arrogant, and he says he was chosen to save the world." People flock around him saying, "You are truly our hero. Please wait, save us, we will be saved by this hero. We were told that the hero will save us all." Then the king announces that this hero with blonde hair is the chosen warrior. Everyone starts celebrating, ignoring the other young man. He wonders what they are doing, so everyone starts ignoring him, saying it's a feast and they give him a drink. Then he goes to the girl he met earlier and asks her what will happen. "Do you remember me? I was chosen as the candidate hero." She is shocked to see him and says, "So why are you still in this world?" He tells her, "No one told me how to return." She then explains that it's very difficult to summon a candidate hero if the gate is closed, and it's highly unlikely that the gate will open again for him to return to his original world. Banaza is shocked by this and says, "Impossible. If I can't return." Then he talks to the king about the issue of the unqualified candidate hero. The king admits that failing to return him to his world was a grave mistake and orders him to be expelled from the country. While in the carriage, he recalls the king's words, apologizing on behalf of the entire state of Krayrod, saying, "Stay in the D-Laves forest in the north. I will give you a special permit to live in this world." After that, we see him in the carriage talking to the carriage driver, but the driver tells him, "Sorry, I've been told not to speak with you." However, at this time, it's hard not to talk. "Please." Then he asks who he is, and the driver tells him that it's his job, Banaza is surprised because there were no lower species than humans he could interact with in his world. Other species were classified as slaves. The driver says, "We're not slaves, but this is my job." Banaza realizes, "Indeed, I came from a different world." Then we see Banaza before being summoned to another world, and his friend asks him, "Is this all your luggage?" It seems they are in a loading area, and he talks to the man who says there might be 45 additional boxes, depending on negotiation. The man asks him to wait a little while they prepare breakfast. Then we see people around Banaza, amazed, saying, "This man is giving money to non-humans. He should have given it to his ally." These individuals might start thinking that they will be given money as well. Then we see Banaza's friend, who is not human, telling him, "I am part of the demon tribe. You are not obligated to pay us." Then he gives him the money again, but Banaza tells him, "You wait until you trade with me. If I don't pay you, this will leave a bad feeling." Then this girl comes and says, "Please agree, Sir Banaza. If he decides to do something, he won't stop until it's done." Then we see different species rejoicing over what Banaza did, saying, "We will all follow Mr. Banaza." They are pleased with him. Then Banaza speaks to the girl named Quinn and says, "You saved me." She replies, "I always help you, don't I?" But we see humans around him upset about what Banaza is doing because he treats other species well. Banaza thinks to himself, "I wonder if there is a world without discrimination between humans and other species." Then we see Quinn saying, "There are a few people in the kingdom who say that. People don't want others to invest in anything." Banaza says, "I don't think it's strange. You have friends of different kinds." Then a strong glow appears and Banaza disappears from this world, astonishing Quinn because she doesn't see him anymore. We return to the present time, and Banaza has arrived in this forest. The carriage driver tells him, "My orders are to bring you here. This is the Delaves forest." Banaza says to him, "It was a pleasant 20-day journey with you. Thank you." The carriage driver warns him about rumors of demons lurking around this area and advises him to be careful. Then he leaves in the carriage. Banaza thinks to himself, "There hasn't been any village or even a person in sight for 20 days of travel. They gave me one magical bag as an apology. Does this bag contain a treasure? I don't know. Let's see what's inside." He opens it and finds 100,000 metal coins, a house, 20 sets of clothes, 8 sets of weapons, and 3 sets of agricultural tools. Banaza realizes he can build a house now and won't worry about food and shelter for some time. He takes out the sword and says, "This sword seems very exquisite for fighting the demon army." Then a wild beast appears, attacking him. Banaza cuts it into pieces, but when he does, his sword breaks. It seems Banaza's level has increased, and an infinity sign appears with each of Banaza's skills. Banaza wonders about it and says, "What is this sign? What does it mean? When I was at the palace, my stats were very low. Maybe I couldn't read all the characters in their language." Banaza seems unaware that this infinity sign means his abilities have increased unbelievably. Then he is surprised to hear a voice that says to him, "The special abilities of skills will now activate." He marvels at having gained very powerful abilities and says, "With so many abilities, I won't be able to remember them all." Then he receives a warning from the system about discovering hidden magic, a magic that attracts nearby monsters. He realizes he can cancel this monster-attracting magic, so he deletes this technique. After that, he begins to search for a living area and realizes that this forest is contaminated with dangerous magic. A message appears asking him if he wants to purify this magic and cleanse the forest. He responds, "All right, if I can do it, I'll do it. I wonder how much magical power I have left as I must live here." Then he notices that the forest has indeed started to purify and rid itself of the magic. After that, in the palace, the king's daughter comes to him and says, "Even if he's not useful, this is very cruel, father. Why did you banish the other hero?" She explains to him that the forest is the demon's habitat, their base for creating their soldiers, and that he told him to live there. Banaza says, "This is more than necessary for us too, especially for him to fight the demon army, especially since he's a failed hero." Then news comes to him from one of his followers that the highest sacred magic has been summoned and activated. The king says so the blonde hero has managed to do it after leaving and starting his training. He managed to perform the highest sacred skill, which takes 100 years of talent. This is definitely his right to be recognized as the hero. But the servant tells him that the sacred magic didn't come from him, but from the south, where the hero was headed. They spotted him from the forest, and the blonde hero hadn't reached there yet, so they are surprised by this. After that, we learn that the purification magic is the highest level of magic for cleansing black magic cells that affect human bodies. It can destroy the demons' bodies from the inside. It's usually used by gathering all the kingdom's sorcerers together. It's the ultimate magical weapon. Then we see Banaza on the opposite side of the forest saying, the forest has become calm. He wonders how to check what's left of his mana using the purification magic. He thinks his magical power has decreased, but he's surprised when his magical power and stats return to what they were before. It seems he has reached level 367, and his magical powers are still infinite. He wonders why his level is increasing only from using magic, and why the strange symbol hasn't changed. It seems the statistics screen is disabled. But he remembers the words of the palace servant, saying that she mentioned that my stats screen shows an average magic level. I believe my magical power is very low, to the point that the screen displays it incorrectly, and it's annoying not to show it. After that, he turns off the notifications and says, I hope there are no serious damages. He is also informed by the screen that the forest has become pure because of his magic, and purification is complete. He's not allowed to live in the city, because if he goes there, they'll kill him if they see him enter and leave the castle. Then he receives a notification that he can use transformation magic to change his appearance. He begins to transform into a woman, but he reverts to himself as he was before and says, even if I enter and leave the city, no one will notice that I'm Banaza. Then he says the problem now is the distance to the city. I'll need 20 days by carriage. But at this moment, he receives a notification asking if he wants to move to the castle using spatial magic. He is surprised to find that he has arrived at the city using this magic, and Banaza is astonished by that. He says, in my world, only high-level sorcerers can use teleportation magic. Here, even ordinary people can use it. This spatial magic allows transportation by specifying a previously visited area, and there is also the possibility of transporting a group of people at once. He then tries to return to his world using spatial magic, but it doesn't respond, and he says, as I expected, it's impossible to return to my world. Well, then I must start earning money to live. Then he says, I'll go to the guild in this world. Maybe I can do some work like pest control or guarding, but it's too early to join the Adventurers Guild. Then he receives a notification that the city of Krayarud is the Heroes Association. He continues walking forward and says, it's a comfortable world, indeed. Then he enters the Adventurers Guild, and the girl there says, the adventurers' levels are determined by their performance. If your level increases, you can take harder missions suitable for your level. You can also take missions, even if you're not a member of the guild, but your compensation will be lower by joining the Heroes Association. We offer you free treatment for your injuries with our Sorcerer's Origin. We advise you to register. What do you think about this? Banaza says the guild structure is similar to what exists in my world. Then he agrees with her, and she says, okay, please pay 1 silver coin as a registration fee. He says, I haven't received any silver coins from the palace. Is it possible to pay with a gold coin? She says, yes, there's no problem. Does a gold coin equal 10 silver coins? It's difficult to accept this money since I haven't worked to deserve it. Then she asks him what his name is, and he remembers the words of the palace servant, that even if he changes his appearance, if he carries the same name, it will be a problem. So he tells her, register my name as Folio. After that, this little girl appears to him and asks him, can you guard me until I reach the Delafaza forest? I want a personal guard. The adventurers around him reply, little girl, no one wants to go on a 20-day journey. If you have a carriage and provide food, I'm ready to accept your request. Folio hears this conversation and says, isn't this the forest I was in before? Then he goes to meet the girl and asks her, do you mind if I take you there? She responds, the reward you offered isn't high. Is this suitable for you? He says, okay, I've been to the Delafaza forest before. If you just want to go, I can send you there using spatial magic. These adventurers are astonished by that and say it's impossible for this little guy to use teleportation magic. He should have thought of a better lie. They say an adventurer of the E rank thinks he can use teleportation magic. Suddenly, this girl appears and says she's his royal guard, brandishing her sword towards him, and tells him to stay away from this girl immediately. She said, "I told you that you could use spatial magic, but I don't see you as an advanced sorcerer who can use this type of magic. What's your goal?" A few days ago, no one accepted her request, and now someone wants to take it without much compensation. This is suspicious. Then this girl speaks and says maybe you aim to harm her body or kidnap or enslave or engage in human trafficking. Folio says it would be bad if anyone from the palace found out, and they seem to suspect me a lot. I have to clarify this misunderstanding quickly. He says to them, why don't we all go together? And you can also get all the rewards for yourselves. The royal knight speaks and says, if you make any suspicious move, I will kill you quickly. He tells her, of course. Then they move to a place where no one can see them and say, okay, let's do it. They start executing the teleportation technique to the forest. They are surprised when they actually arrive at the forest, and they say, this is surprising. This place is definitely the Della Faza forest. The little sorceress who is with them speaks and says, teleportation magic over such a long distance can only be done by people of the highest levels of magic. Folio says, I'm just an ordinary adventurer. At least I can use this type of magic. But the knightess tells him she doubts it. Then she sits down and apologizes to him. He tells her it's okay since it was a misunderstanding. Then the little girl asks, why did all the demon particles disappear? This forest was supposed to be covered in demon particles. Then Folio almost speaks, saying he did it. But he receives notifications that it's dangerous to tell anyone from the demon faction about his purification magic. He says demons and humans aren't in agreement. They're surprised to find out that this girl is a demon with the fangs of a wolf, and the active magic currently is transformation into a human. After that, the knightess steps forward and says to the little girl, it's time to reveal your identity, miss. They all begin to aim their weapons at her, and the girl says she wants to go to the demon forest to settle there. The situation seems suspicious, and they say they were skeptical about it. The knightess says that Castle Krayrod received a report from the Adventurers Guild a few days ago that someone was recruiting people to go with him to this forest, and there was a suspicious girl. Then the little girl speaks in a terrifying manner and says she is the younger sister of one of the 4 priests of the Demon King, Fengero. Then she transforms into a ferocious wolf and says she is Fenless. She tells Folio, you will regret your decision, and you will all die now. She says to him, I will eliminate these people so that you will be my last prey. Then she starts attacking the knightess, but Folio saves her at the last moment. He asks her what exactly is happening here and asks if this is a type of magic. Then the monster attacks him again, and he says, at least you seem to have a little courage. But he avoids its attack again and says it's impossible to escape, as he has to protect 4 people. He remembers that when he used the technology magic, even without touching the screen, the magic activated when he thought about pressing the button. He starts activating the teleportation magic and successfully transports the 4. The wolf is surprised and asks, where did they go? The girl wolf says, my brother entrusted me with this, and I wanted to feed them to the leaders. Why are you the only one left? Are you planning to become food for me alone? He tells her, okay, I really don't think I want to die after all. And so, the first episode of this anime ends. Stay tuned, but don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button to receive all the latest updates. The episode begins today with the transformation of this little girl into a terrifying monster. And it becomes clear that she is one of the 4 prophets of the Demon King, and also the younger sister of Vinjarao, the Demon King, and her name is Fenris. She starts attacking our hero Fleo, but Fleo avoids the attack and begins to survey his own magic list. He sees the offensive magic list, but he says, I don't have the desire to use offensive magic in this situation. I'll try to use utility magic instead. Then he finds gravity magic and activates it. We find that indeed a magical aura begins to form, and we find that the great monster has fallen to the ground due to the intensity of this magical force. The monster is surprised and says, I, the great monster, have been conquered by magic. After that, we see our hero Fleo saying, Gravity magic affects the environment. It has stopped its movement for now, but I can feel its resistance in my hands. It's also difficult to control this type of magic. I want magic that I can use to grasp something. Is there one that suggests enslavement magic? It's magic that controls the target and restricts its behavior, but he refuses to use it. Then after that, he says he will not imitate his previous knowledge, and he refuses to enslave any other race. Then he sees the monster has surrendered and says to her, "The system tells me that your resistance has disappeared." And the monster says, "I surrender now. Kill me as you see fit. I no longer have any magical power to resist. There is no warrior who cannot fight. Kill me." Fleo responds, "I don't want to kill you. I never liked fighting in the first place." The monster is surprised and wonders, "You're gentle indeed." Then she starts to transform her appearance into a beautiful girl. Fleo looks at her, mesmerized by her beauty, and she tells him, "I was only in my monstrous form." Then Fleo says to her, "From now on, if you promise not to attack humans again, I don't mind letting you go." She replies, "From now on, I, Fenris, promise not to fight humans without reason. And I also declare you my husband. I will pledge my life to you in exchange for keeping you alive." He is surprised by this and tells her, "Wait, you don't have to exaggerate to the extent of marriage." She responds, "We are Nipan wolves. There is a law that states you must be married to become an expert. Even if you make me carry your luggage and be your servant, I'm not safe at all. Please let me stay by your side as your wife." But he replies, "I don't need a luggage carrier or a servant. I never even thought of possessing people like them." She tells him, "If you won't accept me, then the only choice is to kill myself." But he doesn't allow her to do that and says, "Fine, you win. You can follow me. Please don't kill yourself." Then he gives her some clothes to wear. Fleo then thinks to himself, "What should I do now? After I told her she can follow me, I can't change what I said. And I also can't treat her as a luggage carrier even if she accepts it." He is surprised to find that she has lost consciousness due to the exhaustion of her magic, and her sleep state has been forcefully activated. When he finds her asleep, he reassures her. Later that night, he finds her sleeping outside the tent. She wakes up, and when she sees him, she remembers that she lost to him and couldn't use her hands or legs, even though I thought humans were a primitive and weak tribe. But my draining magic has fully recovered now. She asks if she's all right, and she responds that yes, because he used magic recovery on her while she was sleeping. Then he asks her if she really wants to marry him, and she says yes. He asks if she wants to travel with him, and she says yes, she wants that because she wants to become a woman to a strong husband, and she will become strong like him too. He tells her, "But before that, you need to know that I'm not human from this world. I was chased from the castle, that's why I changed my appearance. I was summoned as a hero candidate, but I was unqualified, and I couldn't even return to my previous world. So, I was left alone in this world. I don't even know what to do. I don't even know where to go. So, if you decide to follow me like this, are you really okay with it?" She is surprised and says, "He's very strong, and yet, why do I feel like he's someone who should never be left alone?" She tells him, "No matter what, whatever happens, I promise to live with you forever. So please, let me be your wife and stay by your side." Later, in the northern part of Crarewood Castle near the forest, we see that these soldiers are besieged by demons. One of the soldiers says, "Oh, blonde hero, please give us orders. Oh, hero, please order us to withdraw." The blonde hero says, "It has come to this. Damn it, why am I in a place like this? I'm a person who can't die in a place like this." The next day, we find the blonde hero with soldiers, and she is injured and crying in front of the king in the castle. The king asks, "How did things go?" The knight replies, "According to the report, a demon was found in the Delphaza forest, part of the demon army. 10,000 soldiers were sent to subdue the demon, but they were all destroyed by one monster." The hero asks the king and says, "Regardless of this situation, I want to ask something. The soldiers I sent to subdue were terrified and broke formation when they noticed the army was already shattered. I was trying to save as many people as possible. As you know, when I returned with the soldiers I rescued, I didn't even receive a word of thanks for my efforts." Then he leaves. After that, the king asks one of the soldiers about how the hero was on the battlefield. The soldier says, "The hero led the army from the rear. and when the monster appeared, he was in the deepest position in formation. He would run away when the situation got dangerous, even a little. He blames the army. He doesn't possess any of the qualities of a legendary hero. It seems this hero is also disappointing. The king agrees and says, indeed, this hero has been accepted to be the official hero of this country. I only hope we can raise his level quickly. He can overthrow the demon king. Later, in another part of the castle, we find the blonde hero angry and saying, "What the hell is this? I trained so hard last month to raise my stats even a little, but they're fixed in the state I was in. If that's the case, humans will always be weaker than monsters. If a stronger monster than me appears, even a little, I won't be able to defeat it. I should have refused to be a hero when I was given the opportunity to refuse." Then he looks at the girl and says to her, "I kept you waiting." She replies, "No, sir, waiting patiently is also one of the maid's duties." He tells her, "Let's indulge ourselves with the kingdom's treasury." At the same time, in the Heroes Association, we find our hero Fleo and the girl Fenris scouting the association. Fenris says that the human race has a lot of interesting information and abilities, such as the ability to use magic. Then we see that she will register in this association, and the clerk asks her, "What do you want your name to be registered as?" She replies, "Listen carefully, human girl. My name is Hua." But Fleo interrupts her at the last moment and says her name is Riso to hide her identity as a monster and demon. We find that she has obtained a necklace similar to the one Fleo has. She apologizes profusely, and he tells her, "Do not use the name Fenris in the human lands. Many people know you. Maybe they'll show up in the cities. Let's make it less restrictive. I want you to live a lifestyle similar to humans in this city, but we can do that in disguise." Suddenly, the clerk appears and says, "There's an urgent mission. A gathering of enchanted bears has been spotted north of the city. They're currently heading towards the city. I request everyone's help in this emergency situation. The level is undefined. Any adventurer can participate. The reward for killing one is 10 times more than usual. I request everyone's help in this emergency situation. The level is undefined. Any adventurer can participate. The reward for killing one is 10 times more than usual. But most humans and hunters say a gathering of enraged bears. I haven't heard of bears nearby. This is impossible. This request, there were rumors that it destroyed the hero's army." Fenris asks, "What do they mean by the hero's army?" Fleo answers her, "It's the army that headed to the Delphizza forest. When we return to the city, most likely he remembers when they were returning from the city and soldiers and the blonde knight were there." Fleo thinks to himself, if the leader of the army is that blonde hero, then it's a natural result. Fenris replies, perhaps by human standards, he is strong, but he is not strong enough to fight the demon army. Fleo responds sadly, "It seems like it was a great opportunity to earn some money, but it seems like we shouldn't go." She asks him, "What are you saying? If you fight this gathering of enraged bears, you'll wipe them out in the blink of an eye." Fleo responds, "I'm glad to hear that from you, Riso, but even the hero couldn't do it." She replies, "In that case, I'll hunt them myself. If I win against them, my dear husband, whoever wins in front of me, I'll know they can win too. I'll prove to them that they're strong." He insists, "I can't leave you alone to fight them. I'll go with you. I want to try different types of magic anyway." She thanks him for that, and he suggests, "Let's go get some weapons to help us deal with these monsters." Then he leaves the place instantly and heads to the northern forest, where the wild bears appeared. Fleo says, "Thank God we don't need a carriage to reach the Delphizza forest." Riso suggests, "Let's hunt the wild bears and get the money." Then they are surprised to see the wild bears surrounding those people, and they realize that they are the previous group of adventurers they encountered before. Riso suggests ignoring them and leaving, but then one of the knights informs his companions that they can't fight with those injuries and suggests retreating. However, one of the bears attacks a knight and knocks her to the ground. When the bear is about to attack her, Fleo intervenes and uses lightning magic to defeat all the bears, surprising the knights. Then another bear attacks Belano, but Riso suddenly appears and eliminates it. Fleo then thanks the knights for saving them and asks about his friend. Fleo tells them that she is his travel companion named Riso, which surprises her. She asks him why he didn't introduce her as his wife. Fleo explains that he doesn't want anyone to know the truth. Suddenly, a gigantic bear appears behind Riso, and she looks at it, her eyes turning red. The bear falls to the ground, astonishing everyone. Fleo asks Riso what happened, and she tells him she doesn't know how she did it. Then the bear moves and asks for forgiveness from Riso. Fleo suggests they can't let the bear leave, so Riso proposes taking the bear as an ally since wild bears and fierce monsters were able to defeat even the hero's army. Fleo agrees because preventing the bear from attacking people again is a good idea. Fleo then uses binding magic, and suddenly a bell appears around the bear's neck, preventing it from acting freely. However, it can't roam freely with it on. Fleo decides to use transformation magic and turns it into a small rabbit, carrying it in his arms. He suggests naming it Sabi. Then we see the knight Balarosa looking at Fleo and Riso, wondering who they didn't just defeat all the bears at once, but also succeeded in taming one of them. The scene shifts to everyone at the house, where the female knights thank Fleo for saving them. They introduce themselves, with Balarosa being from the Clarid Knights. Plussum explains she gained her strength by working on her family's farm to serve as a strong fighter. Bellary used to take care of her army horse, but eventually became a knight. Finally, the sorceress Belano specializes in defensive magic. Balarosa asks Fleo to teach them fighting, as he managed to defeat the forces led by the hero at the hands of the raging bears entirely. The hero was very angry and said he would not train forces against the Demon King again until he found people he could trust to use as his right-hand men. He locked himself in the fortress, so the king then urgently ordered them to dedicate themselves from fighting until they could kill monsters on the level of the raging bears. They were still novices as knights and still unable to kill even one raging bear. This angered Riso greatly, and she said, "You are insolent women," and Fleo apologized to them, saying she was actually his wife. The knights were very surprised and told him they didn't want to be an obstacle in his path. They suggested to Fleo that he teach them how to fight through their actual combat experiences, and Fleo agreed to teach them. The knights were very happy, and they asked when they would start. Then they asked him for another favor, as it was very dangerous to camp in this area, and they wanted to rent some of his houses. Riso agreed eagerly and told Fleo they had plenty of empty rooms, which surprised him greatly to hear from his wife. The scene then shifts to the Demon King, where Kalioliminus presents a report regarding the unit led by Fengriel, which was defeated while in the Delavisa forest. The purification magic was not cast by her magic from the kingdom of Clairwood, but was cast by a single person. When asked what they would do now, the Demon King said the person had powerful enough magic to eliminate demons in the blink of an eye. He must be a very powerful person, and ordered her to find and capture him no matter the cost. And so our episode ends this week. To follow more of the new episodes, please subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button to receive all updates.